Well, hello again, my Bible reading pals. I'm here today to give you a very brief introduction to the epistles of 1st and 2nd Corinthians. We are doing the Fall Bible Reading Challenge right now. We started on August 2nd, so we've been going just about a month now, and that means we are a third of the way through, and hopefully you are tracking your progress. It is a 90-day Bible reading plan, and while you will not be on track with us, it's still possible for you to read through the entire New Testament before the end of the year. So if you need to accomplish a Bible reading goal, then I encourage you to jump on board. Obviously, the days are not going to be lined up as far as the same days, but you can begin even now, and I've been doing videos throughout this Bible reading challenge, doing an introduction, kind of an overview, and some background and history to each one of the books that we're reading. And so far, we've done John and Acts, and we're not going in exact order of how the New Testament is, but we know that it was not written in chronological order either, and we've got 4 Gospels, so in this Bible reading plan, we kind of spread them out throughout the 90-day period. So we've done John and Acts and Mark, and we just completed Romans, and now today is the first day of reading 1st Corinthians, and we're going to go from do 1st and 2nd Corinthians one after the other. So just a little brief introduction, and I already did kind of some history on the Apostle Paul in a separate video before we started reading Romans. I talked about all the Apostle Paul and kind of his background and an overview of all of his epistles. And so I'm not going to go into that today. If you want to see that, you can go and watch the other video. But these books, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, were written by Paul in 55 and 56 AD, approximately. And let me give you a little bit of history of Paul and his relationship with the church of Corinth, because that's who he's writing to in these next 2 epistles we're going to be reading, 1st and 2nd Corinthians. So he founded the church of Corinth about 50 AD. And he stayed there about 18 months, and you can find this in Acts chapter 18. We see that he kept in touch with them and showed care for the church of Corinth. He wrote a corrective letter before 1 Corinthians, actually, that was lost. You can read that reference in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 9. He wrote 1 Corinthians from Ephesus, and this was around 55 AD, which was 5 years after founding the church. And then he wrote another severe letter, it says, and you can find that in 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 4, and chapter 7, verses 6 through 8. He wrote another severe letter that was delivered by Titus, but again, this is another one that was lost and we do not have a copy of. He wrote 2 Corinthians from Macedonia while traveling back to Corinth, again, in 55 or 56 AD. So less than a year apart, these 2 epistles were written, these 2 letters. And his final visit to Corinth, recorded in Acts chapter 20, was probably when Romans was written. We believe that's when Romans was written, just before returning to Jerusalem. He said it was a painful visit, but we don't have the details of why it was so painful. 1 Corinthians, so let's talk about 1 Corinthians. It's a pastoral letter, and it was written to address various issues in the church. No other epistle in the New Testament gives clearer insight into the life of the first century church and the truth that was delivered through Paul's apostolic ministry and authority still applies to the church today. So there's many things that we can learn through Paul's epistles. Some of the things that he addresses in 1 Corinthians are doctrinal issues, division in the church, sexual sins, marital issues, and spiritual gifts. 2 Corinthians, on the other hand, has a different feel, and it was written, again, within a year after 1 Corinthians, and he writes about things such as suffering and the power of God working through weak human vessels. And it gives the most insight to the hardships that Paul endured. He writes about some of the things that he had to suffer and go through. He writes very openly, sharing his heart and showing deep emotion. He expresses his strong love for the Corinthian church and his zeal for the glory of God, his uncompromising loyalty to the truth of the gospel, and his stern indignation against those disrupting the fellowship and unity of the church. 2 Corinthians is a valuable guide for examining our own motives in serving the Lord. And that concludes this introductory video to 1 and 2 Corinthians. Enjoy, and I'll see you before we enter into the next book. God bless.